came to power in 1959 at the height of the Cold War. He quickly became a formidable force on the world stage. The United States was determined to prevent communism from gaining a foothold in the Americas. In 1961, then President Kennedy approved a disastrous, ill-fated invasion, which was called the Bay of Pigs. CCTV's Michael Voss met two men who were there that day and joined the fight.
The Bay of Pigs is an isolated inlet on Cuba's southern coast, some 200 kilometers from the capital, Havana. Yet its tranquil, palm-lined beaches hide a bloody past. It was here in April 1961 that Cuban troops led by Fidel Castro defeated an invading force of some 1,400 Cuban exiles, trained and financed by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. Cuba was expecting an invasion, and there were local militias all over the island on the lookout. Domingo Rodriguez still lives beside the beach in the Bay of Pigs and was one of the first on the scene.
In May 1945, the war in Europe came to an end. This had been the price of Europe's unpreparedness. Our hard-won peace seemed at last secure. A few days before, Allied forces from the West had joined hands with the Russians from the East. Their statesmen had met cordially at Yalta and at Potsdam. They had agreed that the countries they had occupied should be truly liberated, and that freely elected governments should be set up as soon as possible. Russia had swallowed up 8 European countries without firing another shot. Great Britain and the United States protested that these countries had been coerced by threat of force, and that Russia had broken her treaty. But Russia ignored the protest. On April 4, 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty was signed between France, Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Norway, Denmark, Italy, Portugal, Iceland, Canada, and the United States. The pact was designed to keep within the letter and spirit of the United Nations Charter. The treaty members realized that real peace is more than an absence of war, and they seek to promote political and economic stability in the North Atlantic area. To ensure this, they are sworn to stand together against aggression. An attack against one would be an attack against all. This union of 12 nations became known as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or more simply, NATO.
The Soviets blocked all major road, rail and canal links between West Berlin and Western Germany. They made no concerted effort to seal every route, but delivery of the 12,000 tons of food and coal normally supplied by the West to Berlin every day was now impossible. The Soviets cut electricity supplies to factories and offices. West Berliners could do little. Their only large power station had been dismantled for reparations by the Soviets in 1945. The Berlin airlift began at the end of June. The Americans called it Operation Vittles. The British, Plain Fare. The airlift had to deliver 2,000 tons of supplies a day. Without it, West Berliners couldn't survive. They had coal for only 45 days and food for only 36. Airlift pilots could fly up to 3 missions every day. An American pilot brought his own 8mm movie camera.
I went back to Berlin to get this picture. Inside the barbed wire, kids came up on the other side of the barbed wire, looked at me in the uniform, came up and started talking to me. How many sacks of flour you got? You know, how's it going to be tomorrow? They got off the subject of flour very quickly, on the subject of freedom, and said, look, he said, someday we'll have enough to eat. Just give us a little. Just don't give up on us when the weather gets bad. We'll have enough. But if we lose our freedom, we may never get it back. And these kids were 8 to 14 years old. They blew my mind with their maturity and understanding of what was important.
Halvorsen promised the children that he would return with chewing gum and chocolate dropped from tiny parachutes. Easter Sunday 1949, a record 13,000 tons was airlifted in 24 hours. The gamble had worked. Berlin could be supplied indefinitely by air.